Good evening, everyone. Hello to everyone joining us here at the Floating University. I would just ask if you're here with us to start gathering around. We've arrived at the final portion of this conference, which is the marathon. We'll explain what that is in just a moment, but do gather around and join us for this. We'll have a number of speakers. So grab your drinks and your food and take a seat and make yourself comfortable. So, as I said, we've arrived at the last session of this conference. It's been a whirlwind ride if you've followed it from the beginning of the convening on Wednesday. I just have, the sheer scale of this conference is remarkable. I just have a few numbers to share with you. Over 4 days, there were more than 1,000 people who joined live at the locations, which I think maybe we can give that a round of applause because that's pretty remarkable in a pandemic time. That's pretty great. We also had more than 1,000 people joining live online as well on the live stream and on the online platform. More than 60 speakers from 19 countries. So truly a global conference and so much to share with everyone. So glad that you could be part of it. And then there was a location. So here we are at this swampy marshland that is also a rest and recuperation place, but is the perfect place to talk about ecologies after nature, in my opinion. It's right in the middle of our urban jungle. We also saw that surreal and spatial experience if you were with us at San Gimignano in Lichtenberg to talk about quarantine economies. Then our beloved and defunct former airport Tegel that we had for the discussion on disrupted mobility. The overgrown, wild former amusement park, Spreepark, for a discussion on public luxuries, and of course, civil responsibility at the Haus der Statistik, and at the E-Werk on Wednesday, as I mentioned, that big day of all the speakers to get everything kicked off. So it's been a really interesting ride, and we had a host of luminary speakers arresting images and presentations and talked about the new now in the metropolis. We hope that you enjoyed all of it. So to get tonight kicked off, we're going to be moving on to the marathon in a moment, but to get tonight kicked off, I'd like to start with a video that's going to get things rolling. So let's take a look.
Wenn ihr in der Region kauft, dann bleibt das Geld in der Region.
Okay, some of you might recognize the man in the video. Here he is in flesh and blood, musician, artist, actor extraordinaire, Friedrich Lichtenstein. Welcome.
Thanks.
So you're called, I think a lot of people here will know you, but you're called the ad man.
Yes.
Why?
I'm the ad man. I do things like that in a very special way, and I love this. I'm very interested in ugly things, and stupid things, tiny things, and that's my way to be an artist.
Why ugly and stupid things, as you call them?
I'm interested in gas stations, in power napping, in watcher play, in advertising, in algae too. The reason why I'm here tonight are the algae things. And the algae are, in German, the algae is an ugly stuff, but algae are very great stuff. There's the answer of any questions from Berlin too.
From Berlin too, okay. And these are things that inspire you because they're overlooked, because you think we should look closer?
Yes, it's overlooked. It's begun in my childhood. In my childhood.
Childhood, yeah.
Childhood. And I don't know why. Maybe I am ugly, tiny, and shabby, and so I'm interested in ugly, shabby, tiny things. Maybe that's the reason.
Well,
to do that, shabby things. TED Talk, it's in my opinion, TED Talk, the most worst way to explain things in a science.
is it TED Talk?
Yes, it's a TED Talk. And karaoke is the worst way to have a song. And I put these both things together in my tiny, ugly show. 7 minutes, I think, in 7 minutes, and then it's over. Sorry for my bad English.
No,
Sorry.
it's excellent. And we're going to look at that very fascinating presentation that you just talked about. What about the metropolis? We're in Berlin. How was the metropolis, the idea of the metropolis inspired you?
Yes, I think the coral reef is a great role model for Berlin too. Diversity is great. It looks very beautiful. It's stable. I love the idea from the coral reef of life. The good news: there's place for people like you. The bad news, also for people like me.
There's a place for everyone.
Yes, that's it.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm.
So before you take over the stage with the presentation, I'll explain what happens now. We start the marathon. This is essentially an open stage call that we wanted to end the conference with getting more points of view on the topics that were covered. So this comes in the form of short talks, performances, presentations, and there are contributions made by a number of individuals we selected that we thought would really add to close out and round out this Berlin Questions conference. And everyone has around 5 minutes. So we're going to start, as I said, with Mr. Lichtenstein-Friedrich and with your presentation. And it's about describing your metropolis. So please take it away.
Okay, thank you for introducing me. Yes, here I am. One thing, Buckminster Fuller is a darling from every TED talker. It's a little bit... you know the Black Mountain University? Buckminster Fuller is one of the heroes there. And Buckminster Fuller say, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. That's what I do. Let's start the movie. My new model is time of oak is over. Now we are in the age of algae. You can read the words on the screen. Everything is right there. Oh, what happens? Shit. Shit happens. We are all astronauts on spaceship Earth. That's what Buckminster Fuller said. Yeah. Oh. Okay, one joke is killed. Okay, thank you for nothing. We tried with He's bad. He's wrong in one way. He say, use sunscreen. That's wrong. Don't use sunscreen. It's not good for the river, for the sea, for the oceans, not good for your skin. Don't use sunscreen. If you can't handle the sun, use a shirt, an umbrella, but not the cream. Hope you understand. Something about the future. The future is like a future girl. I say, words are spoken, hearts are broken, future is taken. That's the breaking news tonight. Sokinu, Mudale, Mola. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. That's what Jonathan Franzen say, Shakespeare say. We are such stuff as dreams are made of, and our little life is rounded with a sleeve. Yes, simple things are simple. Great things are great. Bloody things are bloody, and we dance. The hate away. I'm your body talker, you're my body too. Perhaps, maybe. Listen. Watch the algae. The algae is, we know.
Brother and sister,
yes, sorry for the church.
We'll make it through.
Time of oak is over.
Someday your spirit will take you.
Now we are in the age of algae. A new church we need in the coral reef of life.
But I've been waiting to be there.
You can read this? Yes. It's great.
And I'll be there just helping you out.
We know monogam, we know polygam, algae are cryptogam. That's the way. Doing hidden things on hidden places, the race is long. Keep it simple, be strong. Breathing in and breathing out, we don't need no talk about. Love is like oxygen. The algae bottles oxygen to planet Earth. The algae is the most powerful thing on our blue planet. Now, after Cherchez la femme to understand French movies, after Follow the Money to understand ugly things in the world, now we have Watch the Algae. In German, Achtet auf die Algen. That's the thing, the next big thing, the algae. Believe me, so true. Love. Arthur Miller say, she is a lucky, 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 lucky star. But with all her radiance, she is surrounded by a darkness, like we all. What's about the future? We know how it ends. We all will die. I think the now is the best thing. Now. From now to now to now to now to now. I'm your body talker. I'm a TED talker. Yes. I put the ugly things together. Und
Brother and sister together.
the woods are lovely, dark and deep. What I've promised is to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. And now we have a small German park. Sorry for German speaking, but German's such a beautiful language. Listen, words from Rainer Maria Rilke, from the Duineser Elegie. Yes, the algae. So drängen wir uns Winden auf und fallen ein auf teilnahmslosen Teich. Blühen und verdorren ist uns zugleich bewusst und irgendwo gehen Löwen noch und wissen, solange sie herrlich sind, von keiner Ohnmacht. Yes, es gibt immer Zuschauer. Wer saß nicht bang vor seines Herzens Vorhang, der schlug auf, die Szenerie war Abschied, leicht zu verstehen, der bekannte Garten und schwankt leise. Dann erst kommt der Tänzer, nein, nicht der, genug. Und wenn er auch so leicht tut, na okay, schade, meine Zeit ist um.
TED Talks will never be the same. Thank you. I'd like to invite Alexandra Plessner, Lena Chun, and Coco Liu now from Domo's project for the next contribution.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity.
course.
We would like to briefly introduce Domo as a co-living concept focusing on women's needs. As professional women, the three of us trained to play in the digital world, working together spread across 3 different time zones for the past 6 months, it's safe to say we do understand what it means to work remotely. We also learn how we live directly affects our well-being and productivity. We all face the pandemic in different ways, and we had to reassess things from how we work, where we live, how we live, with whom, and so on. Some things were out of our control, and it led many of us to re-evaluate how we live. Take London, for example, where it's the norm to essentially live in a box. You mostly only go home to sleep there, but life happens outside of the home. Due to the pandemic, day-to-day living in a vibrant, culturally rich city like London was suddenly no different than life anywhere else. Suddenly getting out of town, being in nature, and escaping the pollution of London made sense. We learned flexibility across all parts of life and questioned, in situations like this, where would you really want to be? The pandemic inspired a sense of opportunity while further reminding us about our longing to be part of a community and the necessity of private space. For Domos, we focused on the question, how can we help women live better in the future? We started conducting lots of research into the history of co-living and the reality of how women are living around the world to this day. We looked into available data and biases that exist. And it quickly became apparent that many co-living concepts of the past didn't work out in the long run because the community was not integrated into the surrounding area. Co-living space was often designed out of context. We also learned that security and the possibility to live alone is not a given for many women, even in Western societies. Moving on from initial research, we translated the idea of the ancient Roman townhouse domos into open floor plans with multi-purpose spaces divided between public and private areas. In our concept, the path divides the floor plan into 4 areas: public lobby, atrium with co-working space, shared residential area, and private living space. We envisioned repeatable units that can be repurposed in different geographies. So these Domos units are modular, space-efficient, incorporate the ideals of tiny homes, and are fitted with an interior that is adaptive. Whilst working on initial architectural designs, we started to run interviews with leaky clubhouse rooms to test our ideas and learn from the experiences and perspectives of other women. These rooms quickly gained in popularity and made us understand that our concept has the potential to positively impact women around us. Safety, as for the neighborhood, commute, building, and actual home, was always subject across demographics and a big differentiator in conversations with women, in comparison with any conversations we had with men. Also, square footage space was not much of a big deal, but for the space to be manageable, cozy, clean, safe, healthy, and with lots of natural light. Through Clubhouse, we started to create a global community of women that would welcome Domos to become a reality. We would like to take it to the next level, conduct further research, grow the community, share our learnings, collaborate on projects that better women's living situations, and ultimately build the first Domos complex. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Round of applause. Welcome. Next, we have live this time here on the stage, Jan Wilhelm, the founder of Krisenchat.
Thank you. Thank you. Last night at 8 p.m., a girl reached out to us and texted us telling us that she was about to cut her wrists. Within 1 minute, one of our counselors got back to her, and about an hour later, she had managed to calm her down, talk her out of it, and even helped her trying to find therapy in Germany. The counselor was living all the way on the other side of Germany. And that girl is not alone. Thousands of children just like her here in Germany and all over the world, but also here in Germany, face similar crises, similar difficult situations for them every single day. That's why we founded Krisenchat.de. Krisenchat is a platform where children and teenagers can reach out to professional counselors and psychologists via WhatsApp or SMS. So we use channels that they're already using, and 24/7, all around the clock, they can easily get the psychological counseling that they need in their specific crisis. Krisenchat started as a project that we had the idea initially last April or March in 2020, after we saw how lockdowns, school closures, all of those really hard COVID measures affected the daily lives of so many children Germany-wide. And we felt that we had to do something about it. Within 3 weeks after the idea, we launched with about 50 voluntary counselors. And by now we've grown into a company of about 20 people with 300 volunteering counselors. And we've helped counsel in more than 30,000 sessions. At Krisenchat, we've seen, we have direct access, and we have a first-hand perspective on the mental health and the state of mental health in children and teenagers all over Germany. So we get cases, we often get asked what sort of topics do people talk to us about. And it's really ranging anywhere from love sickness and stress about schools or upcoming exams, all the way to deeply depressive thoughts, to clinically diagnosed psychological disorders, where we help trying to find them therapy. Sometimes we give them advice while they're already doing therapy on the side. And so we are covering a wide range of topics, and we're trying to help in a wide range of topics. Krisenchat, as I briefly mentioned, works so that children and teenagers can pull up the phone, go to krisenchat.de, and within 30 seconds or so, they're already in a WhatsApp or SMS-based conversation with us. And on the other side, we have one of those 300 currently active counselors, all trained psychologists, that will get back to them within seconds. And so we believe that that's crucial, that easy access is crucial to actually helping children and teenagers these days. More than 60% of a recent poll of German people said that they'd rather text people for reaching out than calling them firsthand. And that's that's what's new about Krisenchat. There's other large players or large offers in this field that are totally phone-based. But we believe the key to reaching under 25-year-olds is texting. And so we're funded. We're a nonprofit company here in Berlin, funded by corporations with various healthcare providers and some research corporations and some foundations. But we also need your support and your help in 2 ways, or 3 actually. First is we need to spread awareness. We're trying to reach more and more children, and we know that there's so many children out there right now. Actually, right now, I could pull up my phone, and right now, the second, there's probably a few dozen people texting Krisenchat, and there could be thousands and tens of thousands more that actually need that help, but just haven't heard about the available offers yet. So we need to spread awareness for mental health and children, especially now during those challenging COVID times where they're locked in their homes and now eager to go back to school and finally see their friends again. And on the other hand, we need your support. If you have any experience in the field, if you're willing to support those children, especially if you're a trained psychologist, come reach out. Go check out our website, and we're looking forward to talking to you. But also financially, it's hard to. We've had some difficult conversations also with some federal ministries, of course. Where it's hard to get great funding. Luckily, we have some great partners that support us, but we're always looking to expand our team. We saw, actually, we're not doing any advertising, apart from what I just said. We're not doing any advertising to children and teenagers at all right now, because there's just so many people that could theoretically use us, that even without barely doing any advertising, we still get quite a good amount of traffic, and more than we can sometimes handle. So we need your support as a counselor or psychologist, or financially. You can donate any amount of money if you want to. We're a nonprofit, recognized German nonprofit entity, and we're really looking forward, and we're really grateful for your help in that allows us to help more children and teenagers all across Germany. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks. Thank you. Now we'll have a video message again from Michael Fritz, the founder of Viva con Agua.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. I'm Michael Fritz, one of the founders of Viva con Agua. And if you ask yourself, what the fuck is Viva con Agua? It's our approach for a better tomorrow. It's a social business, it's an NGO, it's an all-profit organization, it's a community, it's a network of creative young individual people campaigning for clean drinking water, sanitation and hygiene worldwide. We know that everything that matters is access to education, access to a health system, access to platforms, access to clean water and sanitation. In the last 15 years, Viva con Agua supported like more than 3 million people with the access to clean drinking water, mainly in East Africa, Asian countries like India, Nepal, and also in South Africa. Still, at this time, 560 million people got no clean drinking water. 4.2 billion people got no toilet to shit in, no toilet to do their business in dignity. And we try to make it as joyful and as easy as possible to be socially engaged. We think that in the 21st century it doesn't make sense to start anything which has no social or political benefit for the community, for the people. So that's the reason why we sell bottled water, we sell toilet paper, we sell soap. Why? Because it's a social business. And all the proceeds of selling these products that are totally linked to our water, sanitation and hygiene projects in, for instance, Ethiopia or Uganda or South Africa, the proceeds go to the water projects. So we sell a product, we communicate with the product. This is called social business because the proceeds go back to the people, not to any shareholders in the world. The other thing we're doing, for instance, is we're having a creative agency called VCX. And VCX is offering advertisement, campaigning, ideas, concepts. And the same goes like any social business. The proceeds go to clean water. It's not about the next Porsche for the CEO, it's about the next borehole in Ethiopia or Uganda. And for us, social business is a real opportunity, and you have to see both charity and social business. When we started 15 years ago, we just started with activism, with pure love, with creating something with the things that inspire us and make us have a good day, like music, art, culture, dancing, sports. And the same we do with the project. We try to use the universal languages like music and arts to raise awareness, to inspire people to get active and make it as easy as possible. For instance, in the Millantor Gallery, where you can buy an artwork and the money goes both to the artist and to the social cause of bringing clean water to the world. Or with the Goldeimer, you can go on all the big music festivals and have a happy weekend, offer some flat rate shit. So the cosmos of Vivo con Agua is quite diverse in its social business cases. like the world is quite diverse and complex, and we have to offer different solutions and inspire people to get creatively, become a creative part of this movement. So no matter if it's in Vivo con Agua or you start your own social business or organization, however you do it, you have to be aware that these images, how we communicate, are totally matter. So the best thing is actually to start what luckily happened thanks to Paul Ripke, Nobel, La Team, Materia, Mekis, and to start Vivo con Agua in the countries of the Global South. Like Vivo con Agua is now existing as a registered Ugandan organization on the African soil. I mean Uganda and also in South Africa. So we have to think about that the solutions will not come out of our country, if we can speak of Germany for instance, and just bring it to Uganda. It's more about like we have access to some things, and these access we should use. We should use our privileges because privileges become responsibility. So get active, and you can start any kind of business and just make it social. We just started the Villa Viva, which is at the end a hotel, and if you sleep there, you donate. So it's so easy, and I hope somebody of you get inspired or active now to start something with us or on your own. You don't need somebody in the 21st century. Everything is written in the internet. Everything is changing immediately. We don't need old terms of, how do you say, like old white guys like I will be soon one to tell us what to do. We can do it on our own. So I think now it's the time. We all seen what happens to the climate change. Everything is interconnected. So let's get active, and thanks for having us, Vivo con Agua.
Okay, we have another live contribution now, Professor Nikolaus Hafermas, Managing Partner of Creation at Kraft Brand Lab. The stage is yours.
So, algae, Friedrich, very hard act to follow as this amazingly diverse conference is coming to an end, slowly winding down. Berlin questions. So, what can I do to spoil your mood? Well, I want to briefly talk about a taboo topic, aging. Why aging? Aging is a phenomenon that's shared with every living organism, even algae. And we just don't like to be reminded of it. At least I don't. Tom Petty even said, if you're not getting older, you're dead. So why do I want to spoil your mood at this moment in time with this topic? Well, I don't. I actually want to talk about opportunity instead. So I see aging really as a cultural opportunity. And it is a very important part of the sustainability discourse that we heard so much about in the past days and today, and probably after myself tonight. Aging and sustainability, they belong together, because as a society, to stay sustainable, we have to embrace aging and people who are getting old. And from my perspective as a designer, we spend most of our time to develop and innovate for the world, but always for agile, young to midlife people. Why is that so? It's a huge opportunity out there. Even, only in Germany, every second person is older than 45 years, and every fifth is older than 66 years. In many parts of the world, this is even more extreme. And societies are aging rapidly. And the time that we can become older and live a independent and quality-rich life is getting longer and longer. That part of our life is extending. So Sustainability is a key word for the new now, as we learned. Embracing aging is a key to sustainability. Most senior citizens, though, right now still live in what I would call a design wasteland. There are no design solutions except for crutches and things for people who are blind and, can't wash themselves. And there are design solutions for that, but not for the cultural embracing of aging in a positive way. And I think that is a huge opportunity for us designers, for creatives, but also for policymakers. So I call for a sustainable cultural change. In our recent projects and encounters as an innovation agency, we were often touched by the need for inclusive design and for architecture, brands, and cultural expressions that are meaningful to every age group. Aging is a creative opportunity for the creative industry in several dimensions. For example, to find new positive cultural expressions for aging, for example, in fashion, in popular culture, in music. To find new ways of socially connecting generations in a way that it is a win-win for everyone involved. And in new tools for sharing the first-hand experiences of actively lived life, the wisdom that is being accumulated and then just dies out because the person dies out and there was not a means to actually hand on that first-hand experience. There must be a mechanism, there must be ways that can be invented to do such a thing. And last not least, entire urban environments that mediate between different generations, not in the way of crutches, but in the way of joyful things that can be enjoyed by everyone. So I call this approach intergenerational design. And that is actually more than just a design concept. For this to be successful, it needs to be a cultural change. It needs to be a cultural shift of how we perceive age in ourselves and in everyone around us. So growing older must no longer be perceived merely as a defect and process of decay that needs to be concealed, but also as a gain in experience, in wisdom, and also in serenity that comes with age, and both for the individual and also for society. So with intergenerational design, getting older and being stylish, Friedrich, yes, is not longer mutually exclusive. And that's an incredibly positive and uplifting thing. A couple of years ago, at an opening, I met Dimitri Hegemann, founder of the Tresor Club. And I thought, well, I'd chat him up and learn about the newest thing that he's working on. I said, okay, Dimitri, what's the newest thing you're working on? And he said, well, I'm thinking of designing a retirement home. I said, what? Retirement home? You, the hipster? And he said, well, think about it. I'm getting older. My friends are getting older. And just because we're getting older, we don't want to give up our lifestyle. And that really, was a paradigm shift for me. The light bulb came on. So for me, I would say anti-aging is out. Long lives aging. And us, as people from the creative industries, have an amazing opportunity ahead of us. And I invite everyone to embrace that together with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks. Now we have another video contribution from Gregorio Pezzoli, Anna Pezzoli, and Lorenzo Locatelli with the Varik project.
Good evening, I'm Lorenzo, and last December I designed with Anna and Gregorio a proposal to requalify dismissed areas in our city, Bergamo, a city sadly known due to COVID. We designed a proposal called Varik. This word came from the ancient English term wreck, a vehicle or ship that has been destroyed or badly damaged, but also something that is badly in need of repair. This is how we decided to intervene in our city. We have identified and rethought some areas that are now dismissed. In order to imagine with which kind of features we wanted the new meeting points, we create a questionnaire. More than 140 people filled out the form, telling us what they missed during the lockdown and what they liked. There was an open question: describe in few words what is missed in public space.
Respect because it's everyone's space and respect between people. Functionality, organicity with a social and cultural environment and sustainability. Security, stimulating, useful. Respect, involvement, originality. All ages usability. Urban design which promotes socialization. Green space, open air space, nature. Wide and ventilated spaces, wide but cozy spaces or small groups experiences. Cleanliness, greenery, games for children and entertainment for adults. Usability, inclusive space, green. Airy, greenery, games for children, to be able to use them with safety rules. Natural square, sheltering and creativity, green, squares where you can sit. Always clean windows. Nature and comfort, basic services, water and bathrooms. Incentive for communication and sharing with others, green. Hygiene, nature, socialization, comfort, places to walk, places to socialize, nature, square, community, simplicity, beauty, devices for instant hygiene and larger spaces to remedy any situation of this type, toilet, water, usability, shelters, organized activities, shared space, food autonomy with gardening areas, games, cycle paths and pedestrian area, freedom of movement and security, service industry, largeness, organization, security, and originality. More space, more green, more plants, less concrete and artificiality. Cleanliness, sport areas, wide, green. Accessibility, complexity, and heterodistribution. Safety from traffic and pollution, not virus. Cleanliness, decor, frontal seats in which to look into each other's eye while chatting. Greenery, care, greenery and cleanliness. Mandatory booking in crowded spaces in order to avoid queues, wait, and gatherings in everyday life. Hashtag sharing economy, hashtag urban agriculture, hashtag reforestation. Vegetation outdoors with the possibility of shelter for rain for everyone. Green spaces, places where children can play and others can meet. Accessibility, inclusion, more spacious and ventilated. Fewer people, caution, meeting, communication, collaboration, light, comfortable furniture, and cleanliness. Nature, cleanliness. Open spaces and with gardens if that is possible. Waste sorting, democracy of spaces, workout facilities, care, usability, sociability. Lots of greenery, sanitizers, drinking fountains, accessibility for different age groups simultaneously. I don't know. Organization, greenery and furnishings made by natural materials. Trees, respect for everyone, serenity, alegria. Large, green, greener, community, welcoming, alive, green, cleaning and order, safety, respect. Devices for instant hygiene and larger spaces to remedy any situation of this kind. Safe region, respect for people and things. No services that point and consumption only. Abundance of them, freedom of use, more education on how to use it and less surveillance. I will never be able to fully experience a space where I am observed and controlled. Sports equipment.
These were half of the answer we have received, and we would like to thank everyone who filled in the form. I would like to introduce ourselves as well. Lorenzo Locatelli is an architect now working in Turin. Anna Pezzoli is an art student in study school in Frankfurt of Maine, and I'm Gregorio Pezzoli, urban planning and geography student in Bergamo.
Thank you for your attention and have a good day.
Okay. And now here live we have Claudia Wrap, co-chair at MetropolCon.
Hello. I was thinking of the joys of life in the metropolis these days. because apparently last night a convoy of cars blaring conspiracy theories drove along Mehringdamm. Then we had the strike, and just yesterday the area where I live had contaminated drinking water. So the city has a lot of problems, but it also has something like this, a space to come together and an event to finally feel community again. And that's also something that I'm interested in. Sorry. Because I think even more than before, what do we crave and need in the coming years when we hopefully get past and through this pandemic? I think it's mostly connection, inspiration, and exchange, but also visions, stories, and inspiration in the sense of cultural inspiration, arts. And therefore, me together with a very motley team is planning a new convention, a multimedia science fiction, fantasy, and horror convention called MetropolCon. And when I heard, this year's topic is the metropolis, it was like, well, this sounds like I should try and use this opportunity, even though we're still very early in the early planning stages. The convention is scheduled for the spring of 2023. And the focus is exactly on community, on bringing together, building bridges, on celebrating the richness of the speculative genres in literature, games, art, film, and also the mutual influence on and of science on those. What we envision is not a commercial event like maybe, Comic-Con and the like, but an updated version of the classic nerdy, geeky, fandom-oriented, volunteer-based sci-fi and fantasy conventions that exist all over the world. Because some of them, especially the smaller ones, are dying out because we heard about the old white guys already, because in some cases those were always among themselves in these spaces, and we would like to open them up. There's a strong focus on crossing borders, a pan-European outlook, because we want to try this convention in 2023, and then the next step should be bringing the annual Eurocon to Berlin in 2026 and making that bigger and more modern and more progressive as well. And so why science fiction and fantasy, you could ask, and I also was a bit sort of scared to come here because everything else sounds so serious, and this is always called, the escapist literature. But on the other hand, you could say that especially in the past 20 years, fantasy, science fiction, and horror have shed this nerdy niche existence. They have become vital elements of popular culture, anchored deeply in society's awareness, and they play a huge role in the everyday lives of many people. Just think of the time you spent on Netflix and how much of that was speculative, was fantasy or the like. And this development of the fantastic, the speculative, becoming more pop culture maybe than ever before, coincided with a fundamental disruption of almost all aspects of life during the past decades. Digitalization, social media, gamification, the rise of the streaming services, to list only a few catchwords that are part of this transformation. And speculative fiction as a whole, so that means not just in literature, but also in film and TV, in games, in art and music, but also as the subject of academic research, has turned into a cultural and economic factor that pushes boundaries and refuses to stay in that geeky corner. And so this is why we think as sort of almost, at least for me, I'm almost a newcomer to this kind of thing. My first Worldcon was in 2017, but that opened up a space where I felt like it feels like a great community, but it could become even greater if it was more progressive, more inclusive, more diverse. And so this is what we are trying to do. And we're already, we created like a eingetragener Verein, so a non-profit registered society, but we're still waiting for, the bureaucracy to catch up. And And for the first iteration, we're thinking of 700 attendants or participants. And the whole thing should bring as many people together as possible, not just the old timers, but also the people who might be curious but have never gone to such a convention. And of course, we felt with that European perspective, Berlin is the perfect place because we're sort of right in the center of Europe and everyone wants to come here anyway. Right. So, yeah, and just to round it off, the biggest hurdle is, of course, money. So if anyone knows about sponsoring, cultural funding, I'm happy for any ideas or tips. And the website is under construction, but if you want to know more, metropolcon.eu is the place to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. And we have another video contribution now from an author, speaker, a global thinker on urban spaces, Charles Landry.
Hello, everybody. I'm Charles Landry, and I know you're talking about the metropolis. And in my view, given everything that's happening now, the metropolis will not fade away. How it looks, feels, and functions, though may be different. Every pandemic changes how the city works. Think of the waves of tuberculosis that changed our buildings, more windows, more light, an area feel. And a suspicion about being too close will probably linger a long while, given this current pandemic. This will mean greater emphasis on public space and the public realm. New configurations and ideas will increasingly emerge of what the inside is like, the semi-inside and the outside space. You can already see this in the interesting protective bubbles that restaurants create. And winter solutions in the cold are always more difficult than what we can do in the summer. But these are beautiful urban design challenges. But importantly, the pandemic has accelerated what was already happening. In 2020, we jumped into 2025 with a digital turn. It flipped us online for work, for pleasure, for buying goods and services, and so on. And that blended experience that we're now in, and in this event itself, will become more and more common and is and will become more and more acceptable. And of course, the effects of the digital turn are both good and bad, largely good, but bad in terms of us not having direct human contact, being able to hug, embrace, and do all of those things I hope we all like doing. And some habits, though, will really remain ingrained and stay. And let's highlight three. First, hybrid working, since it is mostly convenient, effective, and efficient. Even so, many like, of course, the second life of the office and the city experience at work. It's the face-to-face interactions, the conversations, the serendipity, the gossip, and as well as the city buzz that we like. Another habit, of course, I think will stay is micromobility. Electric scooters and the like. They expanded exponentially as people were scared of crowded public transport. This will make us rethink how roads work and the social codes of who should do what where and what are the spaces for the cars. There'll be new configurations there, I think. And a third shift that I think is dominant and will stay is the one of the city of proximity ideas. Words like the 15-minute, the 10-minute, the 1-minute city, or the superblock idea of 400 meters by 400 meters, where all the facilities ideally are close by. That notion, I don't think, will go away. This pushes, of course, larger vehicles out, and that means that last mile logistics will be increasingly key, with goods rehandled and smaller vehicles coming into the city, even on bikes and so on. And that's really just reinforcing that walkable city notion that was already underway before the pandemic. These proximity ideas are, of course, part of a return to the local. And indeed, some smaller places outside the metropolis may have incredible benefits from this new world if they can create the equivalent of the buzz that you associate with city centres. And all this challenges city centres now with less traditional retailing, when so much done online and yet relatively less office space used. And this might be reconfigured so that there are more mixed-use buildings in many places, living spaces, offices, and then public faces activity on the ground floor. And it is those that will have real difficulty. What will these ground floor experiences be like? Probably showcases, but what else can we invent? But as we all know, pandemics make everybody reflect. 2020 was a year of radical reckoning. It reminded us that our collective hubris was humbled and the old certainties have crumbled. Some think, of course, the old normal is desirable and an exotic destination. But the older urgencies remain, like the climate collapse. And this task has a new urgency. And it reminded us all that our civilization is a thin film of order that we place around the chaos of events, as we are in the midst of a systemic crisis, given that our economic order and way of life is materially expansive, socially divisive, and environmentally hostile, and the business as usual approach will not work. The large-scale transformations necessary are, in fact, a cultural project, as we consider how people and places think, act, and of course plan. It is cultural as it concerns values, worldviews, attitudes, hearts, minds, skills, and behaviour changes. And this has made many sectors reflect again. Let's just take as an example tourism. Was the over-tourism so many cities of yours have suffered what we really wanted? Can't we now rethink how locals and outsiders have a new relationship? Can visitors become guests? Can they become temporary residents and feel responsibility for the place they are in? Can visitors learn to experience the extraordinary every day in neighbourhoods rather than only looking at the big sites? Can they do, I suppose, voluntary community work with locals? Can they explore together with locals? Can there be a fair B&B where some of the commission that goes to the platform goes back to the local communities? And there are, of course, more ideas. Can, in this way, the visitor economy become something like a social bonding experience that, as a side effect, also reduces prejudices that we may have of each other, as we are all people of difference in one way? And this all reminds me and us, perhaps, that the rules and incentives of the next stage of city development need to be reassessed. And this is why 4 years ago we launched the Creative Bureaucracy Festival in Berlin. And we hope you can be there in mid-September. There we highlight the innovations coming from the public administration and also the unsung heroes. And when you bring everything together, do you know what this reminds me of? Is that cities have a resonance and that they reflect a sort of mindscape, an attitude of life and so on. And it is for me those places that take most out of the opportunity in this crisis and in a sense create a silver lining that will be the models that we all want to follow. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Okay, now we're going to zoom in. Architect Jennifer Jiang. Let's see if we can pull her up on our screen, and we'll see if Jennifer sees and hears us. We're using Zoom, as you well know. There you are. Jennifer, can you hear us?
Yes, perfect. Can you hear me too?
We can hear you well. The stage here, you're not with us, but the stage is yours, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So I'm Jennifer Jiang, and I am a recent architecture graduate from TU Berlin. So actually, I am based in Berlin, but as we speak, I am not currently here. So I guess, where I am coming with my proposal, it's kind of with the understanding that technology becomes less of a commodity and more of this kind of ubiquitous tool. So I want to propose a framework that it's called the Public Gratification Palace. And it is a framework to kind of increase civic engagement and to hopefully further democratize citizen participation. So next slide, please. So basically, I think it's maybe, okay. there's maybe like a mistake with this slide, or I'll just continue. So basically, okay, so I'm just going to continue. So basically, it's how can we bring a more intuitive and practical experience to civic engagement? The idea that it's nested in the comfort and familiarity of our daily technological interactions. So basically, is the motivation comes from the fact of how can we capture, for example, informal conversations of people being at a park, so like at a space like that, and having ideas or feedback about their surrounding built environments, like their public spaces. So how can we capture those into more productive collective conversations about city making? So basically, maybe you can try the next slide. So the main objective behind the proposal of the this kind of framework, it is to, on one hand, encourage collaborations between top-down and bottom-up stakeholders, and also how can we serve and relate kind of basically our smartphones or our personal devices as an architecture tool to increase civic engagement. So concretely, I am basically proposing a framework that will be transformed, or that will be manifested as a mobile app. So in this illustration, it's basically inviting citizens to be physically present on site and to kind of comment on their public surroundings through their phone. So in a way, as a summary, it is a framework to democratize the design of public spaces by emphasizing civic engagement through the perpetuation of the audience intuitive digital literacy and mobile device usage. So basically, in other words, or in simpler words, it is an attempt to incorporate city dialogues into our existing routine with the least amount of resistance, or even getting out of your way to participate. So you don't necessarily need to be physically present at a workshop to give opinion or things like that. And also, I guess we can kind of just relate to how we use our phone to look at the news or to connect with people. So why not add an extra layer of how can we engage with the built environment and the public spaces around us? So next slide, please. So basically with this understanding, we can see how even, for example, after like an intervention, so after a project that it's been implemented, people can still further use this app to comment, like, and share. So similar to social media. And having it similar to social media, there's maybe like a transferable knowledge in terms of familiarity and how to use the phone, or to use basically the app. The next slide. So basically, or maybe the one after that. Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys are seeing a white screen, but so basically, by keeping this framework in mind, I personally went on and did a lot of interviews from basically the whole spectrum of stakeholders. So from city governments, and also from professionals, and also from local residents and NPOs and NGOs, just to kind of get their opinions on this proposal that was still in a way more a conceptual idea. And from there, that was kind of my main parameters to really decide on what to have on the app. And basically from that, I don't know if there's any further pictures, but in general, it's yeah. So if I can summarize the proposal, is like using this method of engaging people with citizen participation through their phone. I feel like there's quite a great amount of potential, especially when we look into the number of smartphone users, and also just the growing prevalence of social media. And also just the motivation factors behind people are have this motivation to kind of media and to share media, and also to build communities through our phones. So in a way, when urbanism is incentivized in this way, it basically creates a cloud of information for designers and stakeholders in which it can be easily organized to kind of use those information for city dialogues. So I guess as a summary, beyond the potential of a wider audience reach and a higher kind of hopefully higher, I guess, level of civic engagement within a population, I see this framework as acting as a facilitator and a driver for any kind of participatory designs or co-creative processes. So it is, in a way, not necessarily a top-down, more like a grassroots initiative, but it's more this notion of like a middle out by bringing both end of the spectrums and into collaborations and conversations. And from there, I see that, yeah, I think it's just a great way to kind of engage in a touch of your smartphones and just quite with least amount of resistance. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jennifer. And sorry, we had a little bit of trouble there with the download, but we were able to follow you well. So thanks to Jennifer.
Yeah, the size of the pictures or something.
Indeed, but we followed you well. Thank you for that. Our next speaker is live here on our stage. Graham Duplessis is head of brand and marketing at Factory Berlin.
Hi, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Graham Duplessis. I'm the head of brand at Factory Berlin. Thanks very much for having me today, this evening. I'm from the Factory Berlin team. Factory Berlin is a community of about 4,500 people from across disciplines and from across industries. And we bring people from the creative, tech, entrepreneurial, academic scene all together in our community to get to know each other, to collaborate, to share ideas, and really to build solutions and make projects come to life that are going to imagine a better future. We and I personally also really believe in community-driven futures. I feel that community has the power to change the way that we live and the way that we work, the way that we do everything. As you've already heard this evening, lots of people talk about community. Community is a very widely used concept, is a very widely used term. And that's wonderful because community is really, really powerful. But sometimes it's also good to think about what do we mean by community. At Factory Berlin, we think of community as shared values, bringing people together around shared values, shared ideas, shared belief, shared identity. If I think of the communities that I personally am a part of, they're all very, very different. And that's what's wonderful about community is that they serve different purposes. More and more increasingly, we see that community is about bringing people together, not just to relate to each other, to find a support system, but it's also because together our voices are louder. Together we can create more impact in a community than we could do alone. The pandemic has really distanced us from each other, unfortunately. I think that we've doubled down into our own communities more, but we've never really had an opportunity over the last 2 years to encounter and exchange people with completely different perspectives. And as we know, that's led to a lot more polarized views. People are more distant from each other. Communities are closer in themselves, but they're more distant from each other. To build a more innovative, inclusive, representative, sustainable future, that future has to be built by everyone. It cannot be built by one or two people or one community. So what we believe in is the power of connecting communities together to offer diverse perspectives on multiple different issues. And at Factory Berlin, there's many different ways that we do that. You can find out more about that on our website. But what I'd like to take this platform as an opportunity to encourage everyone here to find ways to build bridges between their own communities, to find ways to bring communities together, to offer diverse perspectives, to challenge each other, to exchange, to build a future that is better for everyone, that is better and representative and inclusive. We need to bring these communities together. And rather than build a new normal, we need to build a better normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. We have 4 more contributions. The next one's a video contribution from Katharina Dienes, architectural researcher at the Fraunhofer Institute.
With massive wildfires worldwide, we've already landed in the Pyrocene, the geological epoch characterized by humans' use of fire, and especially with the burning fossil fuels. This urges us to respond appropriately to the climate crisis, conveying the importance of ecosystemic synergies between nature and culture. I will shortly present 2 projects by Hybrid Space Lab. The Berlin Humboldt Forum, Germany's most ambitious cultural project, is housed in a newly built replica of the Kaiser's Palace. Severely damaged during Second World War, the palace was blown up, and in its place came the Palast der Republik, a building for state representation of East Germany, demolished after reunification. While the palace replica evokes associations with Imperial Prussia, The Humboldt Forum is meant to become a place for the dialogue of cultures. And all this has led to a very controversial public debate around the forum. The forum is housed in a stone and concrete building without any green at the location with the highest temperatures in Berlin. This lack of vegetation and thus lack of awareness for climate change and for biodiversity loss is all the more surprising as the namesake of the forum is the explorer and sustainability pioneer Alexander von Humboldt. In 2015, at a time when the funding of the Forum Baroque's facade was not yet secured, we developed Humboldt Jungle, referring to Alexander von Humboldt and positively contributing to urban microclimate and biodiversity conservation. This radical greening is a conceptual contribution to the bias debate around the forum, opening up positive visions for the city. Humboldt Jungle was received with great enthusiasm by German media and cultural world. Even though in the meantime, German taxpayers have stepped in to finance the Baroque facade, the jungle's provocative proposal remains up to date as the bias debates around the forum are still ongoing. Therefore, a year later, we developed Humboldt Volcano, a freestanding greenhouse pavilion with a vertical jungle, also referring to Alexander von Humboldt. Humboldt Volcano offers a public access to the roof of the forum, enabling its appropriation, opening it up to the public and the city. Its flexible, transparent structure and its contemporary extrovert architecture contrast with the introvert power-radiating palace replica. After receiving a broad, very positive response by the press and public, Humboldt Volcano is now discussed with the Berlin political and cultural world. With a very long expiration date, it is a project that could be realized. As a stacked oasis, Humboldt Volcano demonstrates innovative ways to incorporate green in dense urban situations. By blending nature with the building, it develops a new hybrid urban typology for climate adaptation and ecological upgrading, for rewilding the city. In the Anthropocene, the juxtaposition between nature versus artifact and design environment is becoming obsolete. In the dissolution of this polarity lays a great chance for architecture merging with nature, prompting to collective acts of planetary ecological care. Hybrid Space Lab developed these visions as perception transformers, breaking through the bias debates around the Humboldt Forum. Nevertheless, Humboldt Jungle and Humboldt Volcano are much more than just provocative projections in order to overturn the place's power dynamics. They are visions for cultural venues becoming active spaces in ecosystems, combining nature and culture, encouraging and fostering radically innovative planetary thinking, facing the challenges of the Anthropocene. They are developed by Hybrid Space Lab, a Berlin-based think tank and design lab for architecture, urbanism, design and digital culture, fostering innovation, contributing to positive societal and environmental change.
Okay, we have another live presentation now here on the stage. Markus Hott of NOAA Labs, CTO.
All right, good evening, everybody, and thanks so much for the introduction. My name is Marcus, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about two things. The first thing is my lovely niece, Noah. She's 9 years old. Second thing is healthcare. So how do those two things find their way together? She doesn't have some tragic illness, luckily for her and for me and for all of us tonight. But she actually had, during the pandemic, she had remote English classes like every other child. And she was tasked with writing a letter to a family member. I'm a favorite cousin. I'm not the only one, for the record. And so she wrote to me, and I quote one sentence: "I look forward and good luck with your health and care startup." 2 words, 1 space. Sounds a bit unfamiliar. But I thought about this, and I think in her mind that made totally sense. And I also firmly believe that between health, space care, and healthcare, there's actually a difference. While healthcare is something we refer to as our system, health and care are naturally inherent to us as a person, to a patient. And our system has evolved into this weird constellation where the patient has actually the least power. So we pay a monthly fee for healthcare. And with that, we give away our ability to actually demand solutions and drive innovation on the market. But that works. And that works only because we get something in return, a promise. And that is the card, that when you go to the doctor, you just show your card, and it says, we've got you covered as a society. But there's something weird about healthcare. It's different than other markets. Today, we rate every single service, almost every single service. You rate your Uber driver, your food delivery. I'm sure there will be some sort of follow-up after this conference. But when you leave the medical institution or your doctor's office, it seems like nobody cares. There's no follow-up. So why is that? That is my question. The thing is that since we give up our ability to make a difference in the healthcare market, we delegate that to institutions, to insurance and politics. And with the best intentions in their mind, they're above all one thing, and that is painfully slow. They're reluctant to implement new techniques. But it's important. Tech inside healthcare. Why? Because when we make it happen, it's actually life-changing. Think about magnetic resonance imaging. It's still being extensively researched. I've worked on this, I've worked on cardiac MRI at Harvard, and I firmly believe that this technology is nowhere near where it should be and could be. It's exclusive and it's expensive. So my question becomes, can we do the same thing as with an MRI, look inside the body, only using cheap biosensors, and let a system take care of transforming that quality to a clinical quality? So it turns out we cannot. We cannot as humans. But we cannot do many things. And we cannot do many things. What we usually do is we turn to computational methods. Why? Because they are able to model much higher complexities. And that's why at Noah Labs, at our company, we focus on neural networks. Neural networks are the backbone of anything related to artificial intelligence. So the question becomes, how good are they really? What is their achievement? And they've done some quite spectacular things in the last years. For example, you can take black and white photos of New York in the 20s, 30s, and recreate a video, basically bringing it back to life. You can do the same thing with your ancestors, have a video chat with them. A bit weird. But the point is that we're able to build and come up with new accurate data points that we otherwise don't have access to. Not anymore or not yet. And that's why I'm excited about this. We can also recreate accidents just from taking video of a damaged car. We've looked at eye scans, retina scans, to study and understand eye diseases. And while doing that, we actually realized that we're able to predict cardiovascular diseases just from the same scans. We're able to come up with new relationships that we didn't even know existed. So what's next to do? What do we need? See, 10 weeks of COVID has catapulted us in 10 years into the future of healthcare. In Germany right now, there's a massive change. Everything's being digitized in healthcare. Every doctor's office, hospital, and even for you as a patient, you will get an app where you have access to your whole medical history, and you will be in power of actually granting access to your treating physician, to your family member, or perhaps for research. I'm not here to take your data. I'm here to tell you that you should be an active part in shaping the future of healthcare. Because this is sensitive data. We all know about this. And we care about data. But how much do we really care? We give up our privacy, our location, for simple things such as a dog filter or a cat filter. When we perform these DNA ancestry tests, we give up our genetic information. We pay 100 euros. They pay 200 euros on top. And they use our genetic information and we sign over the rights. They pay 200 euros on top of what you pay them, and it's still a good business. That's how valuable your data is. So this problem needs to be solved. We need to have a good way to access data so that everybody's happy. And if we don't actively take part in this, corporations will always find a way to just get it. So what can we do? We're just waiting. And we will continue to wait until AI can truly make an impact in healthcare. Because when it reaches that space, it will reach the space that makes all the difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. A quick note that the video that we just previously saw to Marcus's presentation was not Katharina Dienes, but Franz Vogelau of the Hybrid Space Lab. So my apologies for that, but we will now see Katharina Dienes from the Fraunhofer Institute. And now our final contribution here. Yep. That deserves a round of applause, certainly. Our final contribution, we have Eva Balmax and Jasmin Österreich with us. Österreich, please, excuse me.
This is on? Yeah, okay. Hi, I'm Jasmine and this is Eva. And imagine that the metropolis of the future has a voice and could talk to you. And every place could tell you what's relevant there. It could share information with you here and now, not yesterday or tomorrow, just now. And you could be insider of this place. So your present there matters, just because you're on site. Our vision of the metropolis of the future is hyperlocal and full of relevant information. It's a mosaic of places, and those places tell you relevant information and informs you about the people and what's currently on their minds, but also about events and offers and so on. So we think that places and people are a unity. Therefore, we created Winked. Winked is a social reality platform you can access by using an app, and it shares information with you just because you're on site. So the people you reach are only the ones nearby. This is game-changing to what we currently know as a social media network.
Indeed, it's game-changing. Think it through what we actually do. Jasmine, I, and our team is we rethink social media as we know it right now. We disassemble the elements that we currently use and we reassemble it in such a way that location is the key. So we build up communication design and technology on the principle that location matters. And let's make it a mental game right now. Let's take our use case here. For all of you who are attending the event online, let me explain to you. We, the people on site here, we are about 50 people in Berlin city center. However, around us is a beautiful park and a little lake. That is our place. And now imagine if we had such a social reality platform right now, what would we know? I imagine it like this. I mean, since we are the last speakers at this evening in the event, probably we would know that all of you here on site are looking forward to the after party and are excited soon to meet at the bar or something like this. Or maybe we would know that some of you are interested in what we were just presenting and would like to debate on and go into depth and meet maybe on the left-hand side or right-hand side soon. I mean, in a few minutes, just because we are here. And such information is interesting and relevant for all of us because we are here, we are on site, and we can make immediate use out of it. We can use it right away. This is it all about. So to zoom out of the example of the floating university place that we're here right now, back into our initial question of what is our metropolis of the future? What is our vision? We think it is a place where people and place merge. It will be a place where we're feeling involved with the ones nearby and where we focus on the real opportunities and the real offers that we're having right now. And it is a place where we are related to the ones around us and where we look around and where we know, okay, this is where I contribute and where I have an impact. this is our vision of the metropolis of the future. How is it about you? What's your vision? For the ones of you who are on site, who are with us present here, let's soon meet and discuss it somewhere over there at the bar. And for all of you who are attending online, get in contact with Jasmine or me via our homepage. It's winked.me. And before we're closing our presentation, we would love to invite all of you to another event, and we call it Keats Summit about urban localism. It's gonna take place on 26th of August, and it's actually the follow-up on what we've been discussing tonight about the metropolis of the future. So in this Urban Localism Summit, we would like to focus on, well, what hyperlocal solutions are currently coming into existence from Berlin startups. So you're super welcome to join us and to meet us again. And see you soon. And thanks for tonight. Have a great evening. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin and Eva. And one more round of applause for all the speakers, please, who contributed on the stage tonight. For everyone joining us on the live stream, thank you for being with us over the past few days for this conference. And for everyone here on location, we heard Eva say it just now. Feel free to meet us over where the music is and where the bar is to continue the conversation. Thank you. Have a good night.